America now owes $37.4 trillion in national debt. That's $109,000 for every single person in this country, including your kids. Ray Dalio, the guy who predicted 2008 and manages $130 billion, just gave us 3 years before what he calls a debt-induced heart attack crashes our entire economy. Guys, we've lived through 2008. We've seen bubbles form and pop, but what we're seeing right now, this is different. And honestly, it should terrify you. Listen to this.
If you have that supply-demand imbalance, then you have interest rates rising, and it curtails, causes asset prices to go down, curtails economic activity and so on. But central banks don't want to let that happen. So what they do is they print the money. And when you get to the point where we are, which is very close, that you start to have the debt, you have to borrow money to pay the debt, then that is the problem. They're going to also calculate that Social Security is going to run out, of the Social Security fund will run out in 2033, which is in that window. Everybody's going to be staring. We're not going to have adequate Social Security and so on.
In the next few minutes, we need to show you 5 things that are happening right now. First, why foreign countries just dumped $170 billion in U.S. Treasuries in December alone, and where that money's going instead. Second, the shocking reason 76% of American homes are now completely unaffordable for regular families. Third, why gold just hit $3,592 an ounce. And no, it's not just inflation. Fourth, why 2 Federal Reserve governors just did something that hasn't happened in 30 years. And fifth, the exact number Ray Dalio says will trigger the whole collapse. But before we get into that, let me show you what happened last week that literally nobody is talking about. Okay, stop whatever you're doing and look at this. While you've been watching this video, literally in the last 30 seconds, America's debt has increased by another $1 million. We're adding $2.6 billion in debt every single day. Not per month, not per week, every day. We're literally watching our country go broke in real time, and most people have no idea. So on September 2nd, Ray Dalio sat down with the Financial Times and dropped an absolute bombshell. He said, and these are his exact words, "The great excesses that are now projected will likely cause a debt-induced heart attack in the relatively near future." I'd say 3 years, give or take a year or two. Have a listen.
They print money. When faced with the choice, they print money. And so the way they go broke is not that they default, it's that they devalue.
Now look, when the guy who called the 2008 crash before anyone else says something like this, you better listen. But here's what really got us. Dalio compared where we are right now to the 1930s. And he's not talking about the Great Depression. He's talking about the period right before World War II. He revealed something that should make your blood run cold. Business leaders, the smartest money managers in the world, they're staying completely silent because they're afraid of retaliation if they criticize. Ken Griffin from Citadel, he got absolutely destroyed for speaking out about tariffs. Larry Fink from BlackRock admitted that CEOs privately tell him we're already in recession, but they won't say it publicly. Think about what I just said. The people managing trillions of dollars are too scared to tell you the truth about what's happening. But here's what the data reveals, and this is straight from the Treasury Department as of September 2025. We're spending $7 trillion every year as a country. We're only bringing in $5 trillion in taxes. That means we're running a $2 trillion deficit. Or as Dalio puts it, and this blew my mind, we're spending 40% more than we're taking in. Imagine if you did that with your personal finances. You'd be bankrupt in months. But wait, it actually gets worse. The Congressional Budget Office just projected that our debt to GDP ratio is going to hit 156% by 2055. You know the last time a major economy hit those levels? France, right before the French Revolution. Let that sink in for a second. And here's the first number that should shock you. Interest payments on our debt just crossed $952 billion this year. That's $2.6 billion every single day just on interest. We're not paying down the debt, that's just the interest. It's like making minimum payments on a maxed out credit card forever. Now, as someone who's been in real estate since before the last crash, let me tell you what this means for housing, because this directly affects you. The National Association of Realtors just released data showing that only 24% of home sales are going to first-time buyers. That's the lowest in history. You want to know why? Mortgage rates are stuck at 6.5%, even though the Fed hasn't raised rates all year. The median home price hit $435,300 in July 2025. Do the math with me. A typical family needs to earn $135,000 just to afford a median home. Have you noticed this in your area? Houses sitting on the market longer, price cuts everywhere, but still, nobody can afford them. And this is really keeping us up at night. Commercial real estate is already in free fall. Office vacancy rates just hit 20.4% nationally. San Francisco? Try 28.8% empty. That's nearly 1 out of every 3 office buildings sitting completely vacant. And you know what happens when commercial real estate crashes, right? Banks fail. And when banks fail, well, you lived through 2008, you remember. Do you think real estate is a safe bet or not? Listen to what Ray thinks and let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree and why.
But why not just buy real estate and hold on to it? Is that not a good idea?
It's not a good idea.
No.
It's not a good idea because, first of all, real estate is more interest rate sensitive than it is even inflation sensitive. So if you were to say, if this environment happens, does it go? It goes down in real terms. It's also an asset that is a fixed asset that is the easiest asset to tax. In other words, you in any place, you're in a particular state, putting in real estate taxes means that they could always get the money. And so it's not an effective diversifier that way. And also being able to move money from one place to another, the real estate is nailed down.
While I have a second, help me out and hit the like and subscribe if you find this video interesting so far. Just takes a couple seconds, and each like, subscribe, and share helps support this channel and keeps us motivated to keep making you great content. Thank you. Now, let's continue. On July 30th, something happened at the Federal Reserve that I've never seen in my career, and it hasn't happened since 1993. 2 governors, Michelle Bowman and Christopher Waller, actually voted against Jerome Powell's decision to hold rates steady. Think about what that means. The Fed is so divided right now that for the first time in 32 years, we had multiple people openly rebelling against the chairman. Markets are pricing in a 90% chance of a rate cut in September, but here's what they're not telling you. The Producer Price Index, that's wholesale inflation, just jumped 0.9% in July. That's the biggest increase since March 2022. So while everyone's celebrating that inflation is under control, it's actually accelerating again. We're getting squeezed from both sides. Now, this is where it gets really scary. Foreign countries are dumping the dollar faster than we've ever seen. China just reduced their U.S. Treasury holdings below $759 billion. They've been selling for 9 straight months. Japan dumped $27.3 billion just in December alone. So where's all that money going? Gold. Central Bank bought 1,037 tons of gold in 2024, the second highest amount ever recorded, and over 1,000 tons of gold each year since 2022. Gold just hit $3,592 an ounce. When central banks are trading your currency for shiny rocks, you know you have a serious problem.
Gold is a form of money, and gold central banks are acquiring gold now as a diversifier.
But it's not just about gold. The BRICS countries, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now 6 more nations, they're building their own payment system to completely bypass the dollar. 1/5 of all global oil trades now happen without using dollars at all. Think about that. The petrodollar system that's kept America dominant for 50 years is collapsing right in front of us. The Atlanta Fed's GDP Now tracker shows growth at 3% for Q3, which sounds good, right? But manufacturing has been contracting for 6 straight months. The ISM Manufacturing Index is at 48.7. Anything below 50 means we're shrinking, not growing. Here's your third shocking number. We've got unemployment at 4.3%, inflation at 2.7%. But wages can't keep up with costs. This is the exact same recipe that gave us stagflation in the 70s. Low growth, sticky inflation, and rising unemployment all at the same time. Inflation hit 11%, unemployment reached 10%, and the stock market lost half its value when you adjust for inflation. We're not there yet, but we're walking the exact same path. Okay, this is where Dalio's warning becomes absolutely real. Our government spending for fiscal year 2025 breaks down like this: Social Security, $1.6 trillion, Medicare, $942 billion, Defense, $859 billion, interest on our debt, $952 billion. Did you catch that? We're now paying more in interest than we spend on defending our entire country. By 2035, interest payments alone will hit $1.8 trillion. That's $4.9 billion every single day just in interest. Dalio says we need to cut our deficit from 7.5% to 3% of GDP to avoid disaster. You know what that means? We need to cut $1.5 trillion in spending or raise taxes by 30%. Now tell me, which politician is going to stand up and do that? Which one is going to tell seniors their benefits are getting cut or tell you your taxes are going up by a third? Let me bring this back to what actually matters to you and your family. According to Redfin's July 2025 data, only 28% of U.S. homes are affordable for a typical American household. In California, the median home price is $830,400. $830,000 for a regular house. First-time buyers now have a median age of 38. That's up from 35 just last year. Their median income? $97,000. These aren't kids fresh out of college trying to buy starter homes. These are established professionals in their late 30s who still can't afford to buy. Here's number 4 that should worry you. Housing inventory is up 15.7% year over year, but we still only have 4.6 months of supply. A balanced market needs 6 months. So even with more homes available, prices aren't dropping much because sellers literally can't afford to take losses. They're trapped by their own mortgages. The Conference Board's leading economic index has been declining for 6 straight months through July 2025. Historically, and we've tracked this for years, when this happens, we get a recession within 12 to 18 months every single time. Credit card delinquencies are rising. Auto loan defaults are accelerating. The SOM rule, which has correctly predicted every recession since 1971, is dangerously close to triggering. But this really got our attention about Dalio's warning. When he talks about a debt heart attack, he's not just using fancy words, he's explaining it like this.
And you could see that it's like plaque, debt service is like plaque building up in the arteries. So you could see interest rates and debt service payments starting to squeeze out other consumption. We can see that. We can see that in our numbers.
Right now, our economic arteries are about 90% blocked. And you know what happens when arteries get that blocked, right? So why does Dalio specifically say 3 years? It's not random. Here's what's coming. The debt ceiling suspension expires in 2025. That's going to be a massive fight. The Bush tax cuts expire in 2026. Everyone's taxes go up if Congress doesn't act. Medicare Part A goes completely insolvent in 2033. No money left. Social Security hits its crisis point in 2033. Benefits get cut automatically by 20%. Here's the 5th and final number that should terrify you. If we don't change course right now, the CBO projects our debt will hit $50 trillion by 2034. That's $146,000 in debt for every single American. Look, we survived 2008. We've navigated multiple market cycles, and here's what I'm personally watching right now. Treasury yields are at 4.25% for 10-year bonds, but foreign demand is completely collapsing. When nobody wants to buy our debt anymore, rates have to go higher to attract buyers. When rates go up, your mortgage rates go up, your credit card rates go up, everything gets more expensive. We're seeing smart money, and I mean really smart money, moving into 3 things. Gold, already at $3,592 an ounce. Cryptocurrency as an alternative currency play. And cash flowing real estate in very specific markets. Not speculation, not flipping, actual properties that generate real cash flow every month. Dalio made a comparison that honestly gave us chills. He compared today to the 1930s, noting how government intervention in private business, like the government taking 10% of Intel, mirrors what happened before. Well, before democracies turned into something else. When business leaders are literally afraid to speak the truth, when government starts controlling private industry, when debt becomes completely unsustainable, historically, that's when free societies fail. I'm not trying to be political here. This is just math. This is just history. And history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. Ray Dalio says we have three options, and only three. Option 1, restructure the debt. That's a fancy word for defaulting. Option 2, force other countries to buy our debt. That's economic warfare. Option 3, cut spending and raise taxes. That's political suicide. He points to 1992 to 1998 as proof that we can actually fix this. Back then, we cut spending by 4% while the economy was strong, and we actually balanced the budget. It can be done, but that requires politicians to make hard choices. That required Americans to accept even more pain, which we can't do. Today, with $37.4 trillion in debt and nearly $1 trillion just in annual interest, I'm not sure we have the political will to do what needs to be done. But will it be done? What can we do to protect ourselves? Ray Dalio suggests investing in tips, Treasury inflation-protected securities, buying gold, and being well diversified. Look, Dalio isn't some YouTube prophet trying to sell you gold coins. This guy manages $130 billion. He called 2008 when everyone else was buying, and he's giving us 3 years, maybe less, before America faces what he calls a debt-induced heart attack. The question isn't whether this crisis is coming. The math is the math. The question is, what are you going to do to protect yourself and your family? Because when somebody like Ray Dalio says we're facing economic cardiac arrest, when business leaders are too terrified to speak up, when foreign countries are dumping our